Welcome back. All right, so it's after the first period between Toronto and San Jose. I'm going to do something I haven't done since we lived in the old house. It's been a long time since I've tried to record the review over a couple of sessions. I'm going to try that now. So the 13 games today take place all throughout the day. Started at 10 a.m. my time. It's now 8:15 p.m. my time. Hockey's still going. There's still 2 periods left of the hockey to watch. Yep, I watched them all. Let's go ahead and start with the New York Rangers and the Boston Bruins. So the Rangers came into today, really hot. The Bruins came in hot and cold. Really depends on the game. It was Shesterkin versus Swayman. Early press by the Rangers. Lafreniere fires one wide. Maybe this is a game that gets Lafreniere going. I think the Rangers really want to get him, producing and going at a good rate. Shots were 4-0 for the Bruins at 5 minutes. The Rangers had opportunities, they just weren't hitting the net. So the storyline coming out of the first period was one of, the Rangers are hanging around. They're not really, Bruins outplayed them. I didn't think that was the case. I thought it was just the Rangers weren't putting the puck on the net. I thought they had plenty of offensive zone time. They just were overpassing a bit. Stretch pass to Pastrnak nearly clicks, so he takes a penalty. That's killed off, no shots. Rangers cycling too much. And it's right there. Rangers cycling too much. First Rangers shot was at 9 minutes, and then they pressed after that. Kakko was denied. The Rangers take a penalty. So both penalties to start off this game were in the offensive zone, where coaches tell you they don't want to see you taking penalties. Smith had a blast that was saved. The fans looked for a 5-on-3. The ref said no at first. And then there was a 10-second 5-on-3 for Boston. So that's killed off those 10 seconds. Then a minute and 50 seconds that remained were killed off. May have watched too much hockey. But a second after all of that ends, Craig Smith scores. And it looked like, the Rangers were kind of caught napping a little bit. Like, oh, okay, we survived. Shots were 14-3 for Boston. 9 on the 2 power plays. Hall has a break. Shesterkin makes the save. The Bruins were in control so far. And then Strome, with 6 seconds left, scores from Panarin and Hunt. 8-game point streak for Ryan Strome. So we go to the second period tied at 1. 17 seconds in, the Rangers get a power play. With an open net in front of him, Strome decided he was going to pass it to Kreider instead. A dangerous power play. Zibanejad hits the post. The Bruins kill it off. McAvoy had a shot that was saved. There was a 2-on-1. Marchand had a chance that was stopped. And then Bergeron scores from Grzelcyk and Marchand at 6:51. That is point number 933 for Bergeron, so he's 67 away from 1,000. And that was a set play on the face-off. The Rangers tried to answer. Nemeth hits the side of the net. Shesterkin denies Pastrnak. Kakko couldn't bury one at the half. There was a glove save on Hedl. But eventually, one's going to go in. So Dryden Hunt makes sure it goes in by smashing the glass off the camera inside the net from Lindgren and Fox at 12:33, and it was on a rebound, so he made sure he fired it. Rangers press for the lead. Prime chance for Zibanejad. The Bruins get a power play. That doesn't succeed. It only generates 1 shot. Bruins pressed after it ends. In the last minute, there was a press for the Rangers. Much better period for the New York Rangers than the first. They start hitting the net, although the scoring is exactly the same, 1 goal each. Third period. Physical start to the period on behalf of the Rangers and the Bruins. Riley had a shot blocked by Zibanejad. There was a press at 4.5 minutes. Bleed mishandles on a rush chance. The shots are 2-0 for the Bruins at 7 minutes. It didn't feel right. Again, it felt like the Rangers were playing better than the shots were telling you. Kreider tries the lacrosse goal. He thought it went in. The referee actually blew the whistle to check, which I thought was odd. I thought, really? Because, all right. So if a guy goes, I think that's in the net, the referee will go, let's go take a look. All right, sure. And it wasn't in. So, more conservative third. It really felt like it was overtime. Like both teams were defending well, keeping the other team to the outside, playing pretty well. And then Panarin scores from Gauthier and Strome at 11:35. Artemi Panarin started heating up. That's bad news for the rest of the East. Fox then prevented an answer from Bergeron, and that line would press after. Shesterkin saves. I don't call them that. The Bruins press with 5 minutes left, but there's a 2-on-1, and the Rangers score. Lafreniere from Gauthier and Fox at 16:22. With 2:37 left, the goaltender is pulled. Coyle can't bury one. Things get scrappy with 56.4 seconds left. McAvoy stuck his leg out on a trip. It wasn't a very pretty trip on the part of McAvoy. Smarter than that. And rightfully, the Rangers took exception to that, so things get kind of scrappy. Winds up being 4-on-4 because of the scrappiness that takes place after, and 5-on-4 without the goalie. So the empty net goal is Trouba at 19:23, and then with about 12 seconds left, Panarin decided he'd had enough of Marchand yapping at him, so he threw his glove at his face. Got a penalty for it. He may get a fine for it. I guarantee he's going to say it was worth it. And it was pretty funny. I got to be honest, and that's even from a Bruins fan, I thought it was hilarious that Panarin drilled him in the face with his glove. So, or at least he tried. I don't know if he hit him in the face, but anyways, Marchand laughed it off after. Didn't laugh off the score. The Rangers win 5-2. They go to 13-4-3. The Bruins go to 10-7, and today was the 500th sellout in a row at TD Garden. So shots are 17-5 Boston in the first, 19-12 Rangers in the second, 7 apiece in the third. The final shots 36-31 for Boston. Power plays 0-2 for the Rangers, 0-3 for Boston. Hits 23-21 in favor of the Rangers. Shesterkin saves 34 out of 36. Swayman saves 26 out of 30. And that was it for the first of the matinee games. And it was very entertaining. But again, for the Bruins, it's a setback, but the Rangers are starting to roll. And again, this is bad news for the East. The Metro is just, it's pretty stacked right now, isn't it? All right, I need to change boards. Next up is Carolina and Philadelphia. So for Carolina, I kind of saw this coming, didn't I? So yeah, I mean, they're going to explode with a bunch of goals. Philadelphia, a team that's been struggling lately. It was all lined up. So it was Ronta up against Hart. Provorov would score in the first minute from Giroux at 50 seconds. So the Canes challenged it. And nope, Flyers end up getting a power play there for the delay of game. Now, Canes defense, they kill it off. The shots are 4-1 in favor of the Flyers at 5 minutes. Canes get a power play. Hart denies. Jarvis as it ends. Slavin was denied as well. The Canes, though, had the momentum. Flyers press with 9 minutes left, and then Aho scores from Teravainen and Nechas at 13:40. Then there's a delay of game call that gives the Canes the power play. Against the flow of play, Farabee gets a goal at 17:02, and then the Flyers kill off the rest. So even though Carolina controlled a lot of the play after that first goal by Provorov, the Flyers are up 2-1. They had to feel pretty good. Second period, Aho scores at 23 seconds from Nechas and Pesce. So what's going to happen is tied, not for long. Ristolainen restores the lead from Frost and Atkinson at 1:16. Then Carolina answers right away. It's fast from Niederreiter and Cole at 1:57. The Flyers then get a power play. There was a shorthanded chance for Pesce during that. Atkinson hits a post. Everything gets killed off. And then it's Kotkaniemi scoring from Jarvis and D'Angelo at 5:48. And it was a nice three-way pass leading to the goal. No chance on that one for Carter Hart. And showing again that the Philly defense, a little suspect today. Things get scrappy behind the Canes net. The Canes get a power play. Flyers survived it. The Canes pressed afterwards. The defense couldn't contain Carolina today. Not at all. Near miss by Aho as he wins a race with Hart. And then Lawrence scores from D'Angelo and Kotkaniemi at 16:22. Ronta absolutely robs Bunnaman before the period's out. And we go to the third period with Carolina up 5-3. Teravainen had a blast that was saved. There's a press by the Canes at 3 minutes. Eventually, they get another insurance goal. It's Svechnikov from Stahl and Shea at 4:50. The Flyers would get a power play. That was unsuccessful. Carolina gets a power play, also unsuccessful. Carolina didn't care. They win this one 6-3. They go to 15-3-1 for Philadelphia 8-7-4. So Carolina's on pace for over 60 wins this year. That's insane. Shots 17-6 Carolina in the first, 12-9 Philadelphia in the second, and in the third, really Philly got tied down. The shots were 10-5 for Carolina. They outshot Philly in the game 36-23. Power plays Carolina 0-4. The Flyers 0-3, and of course they got the shorthanded goal as well. The hits are 20-16 for Carolina. Ronta saves 20 out of 23, which does not tell you how well he played. Hart saves 30 out of 36. And I would imagine people will blame Hart, but he came into today with a .928 save percentage, and honestly, the defense in front of him, not great. So we'll see how they bounce back, because again, it's a pretty compressed schedule between now and the Christmas break. All right, next up. St. Louis and Chicago. St. Louis came out and played a fantastic first period. That was about it. So Perron would leave this game too, and it looks like it was a concussion. We'll see how long he's out. But St. Louis was already in a bit of a nosedive. They pulled themselves out of it with their last game that went over Vegas today. It wasn't a great one. So it's Binnington versus Lankinen. Buchnevich scores in the first minute from Kyrou and Falk. So all of these games had goals in the first minute. They started at the same time. So in my brain, I'm going, it's going to be one of those days, huh? The Hawks then scored, but it's offside. So Jonathan Toews remains without a goal to this point in the season. Then we get a power play for the Hawks. Kubalik had a shot that was saved. Some good pressure there. The Blues went over 8 minutes without a shot. Hagel to Kane. Kyrou defends that. The Blues get a power play and they score on it. At 16:39, it's Barbashev from Thomas and Buchnevich. DeBrincat then tried to answer. He fired that wide. So we go to the second period. This time in the first minute, it is the Hawks that hit. It's Kara from Hardman and Reese Johnson at 43 seconds. And with Perron out at this point, that means that for St. Louis, they're down to 10 forwards because they had 11 forwards and 7 defensemen today. That's the risk of the 11 forward 7D setup. Sundqvist fires one wide. The Hawks press. Tired Blues on the ice at that point. Kane had a shot deflect to the corner. The Hawks end up getting a power play. See, I said Kane and you got Canes here, and that gets stuck, right? Hawks get a power play. It couldn't get set up. Aggressive penalty kill by St. Louis. Very well done. Kara had a break after it ended. The Blues had a 3-on-2 then that was defended, but we go to the third period with St. Louis ahead 2-1. But you could see the momentum was starting to shift. So the Hawks get a power play. That was unsuccessful. There's a press by the Blues, and then Kubalik on a rush as well. Carpenter had a shot that was saved, so some good end-to-end action going on here. Saad had a net drive that was defended. The Hawks press at the half. Hardman whiffs on one, and then when the puck goes the other way, he defends on Krug and makes sure Krug doesn't score. And then it's Hagel. I think one of the MVPs for Chicago. He scores to tie it from Seth Jones and Toews at 14:56. Crowd was fired up at this point too, so a quiet crowd here. Very loud and boisterous crowd once you get down here. Blues were stuck on one shot in the third period for a long time. And really, they were just hanging on. Doc defends an O'Reilly chance. The Hawks press with 2 minutes left, but we go to overtime. In the overtime, the Blues did control on the faceoff. Lankinen saved. It looked like the Blues were keeping it, and then the Blackhawks get it, and right away, DeBrincat puts it in the net at 1:27 from Seth Jones and Kane. So, thanks for coming out. Chelsea Dagger plays. The Hawks win 3-2 in overtime. They go to 7-11-2. With the loss in overtime, the Blues drop to 10-7-3. Your shots, 16-10 St. Louis in the first, 6 apiece in the second, and then 10-2 Chicago in the third. In the overtime, both teams had one shot. Chicago, the one that matters. Final shots, 27-25 for the Hawks. Power plays, 1-for-1 for St. Louis. 0-for-3 for Chicago. The hits, 33-17 in favor of the Hawks. Binnington saves 24-27. Lankinen saves 23 out of 25 at the other end. So Chicago keeps their faint hopes alive. But for St. Louis, it's one of those games that they have to lock that down. I understand if Perron's out, that's really tough for their offense. They've already had all these other issues. But they've got to figure this out because, again, Chicago's getting back into the hunt right now. All right, next up, Winnipeg. I did find time to go onto Twitter and say this might be the perfect time to panic now. After the first 3 losses, I was like, nah. But now we're up to 5. Yep, sure. You're a Winnipeg fan and you're like, it feels like it might be the right time to panic. You're probably right. So it's Hellebuck versus Talbot, 52 seconds in. So 50 seconds, 59 seconds, 52 seconds. It's Goligoski scoring from Duhaime and Sturm. That one was through traffic, so if they changed who scored that, don't care. It was a nice point shot. The shots, though, are 4-2 for the Jets at 6 minutes. And the Jets were in control after the Wild had scored. They played pretty well, and then all of a sudden, it changes. At 7:47, Zuccarello scores from Kulikov and Kaprizov, and that went off Hellebuck and in. That was only the third shot as well. Hellebuck struggling today, and the Wild up by 2. The game completely changes. Really energized Minnesota team. Dillon had a shot trickle wide. Greenway nearly buries one. He had like 2 really good opportunities on that shift. Jets get a power play. They were 1 for 22 in their last 9 games. They improved that. And on the upside, if you're a Jets fan, at least their penalty kill seems to be improving, right? They're 31st only because Vancouver's is miserably bad. So Scheifele's denied, that's killed off. Kaprizov was denied on a turnover. We go to the second period with it 2-0 in favor of Minnesota. Doesn't stay there for long. At 2:04, it's Hartman from Kaprizov. Hartman continues his amazing run. At 2:49, it's Zuccarello from Kaprizov and Brodin. So Kaprizov with 3 assists to this point in the game. I've seen some comments early in the season about, well, Kaprizov, I mean, he gets all that money, but what has he done? Right now, a lot. So Comrie comes in at this point, and he makes saves when he's tested. The Jets get a power play. That's unsuccessful. And then at 9:35, we're not to the halfway mark of the game yet. It's 5-0. Merrill scores from Goudreau and Pitlick. The Wild then get a power play. The Jets did kill it off, but it managed 4 shots, so it wasn't a weak power play. Another Wild power play, and it was a 4-minute power play as well. Shorthanded chance for Kopp. In fact, he had a couple, and they did kill it off, but they couldn't get any momentum out of it. Like, that's where you're looking for a lift and a goal, and they just weren't getting it. So we go to the third period. Dubois ends up taking a really dumb penalty out of sheer frustration. It's the only way I can look at it. You wrap a guy up and just bring him down like that. That's a frustration penalty. Shorthanded chance for Stanley. That helps to kill off that power play. The Wild were not giving the Jets openings. Beaulieu had a chance that was saved shortly after this, and then Dumba would score to make it a lot to nothing from Foligno and Pitlick at 11:24. So Rem Pitlick on the board with a couple of assists. Jets then get a power play. They didn't have any confidence on it. They had a hard time setting it up. But eventually, as the power play is almost over, they do score. It's Dubois from Schmidt and Comrie at 15:08. 14 seconds later, the Jets turn the puck over, and it's in the back of their net. Kaprizov from Fiala at 15:22 makes it 7-1 for the Minnesota Wild. That's your final. Minnesota goes to 13-6-1. They've staked their claim as the best team in the Central, and right now I think they probably are. The Jets 9-7-4 with the loss. The shots 14-9 in favor of Winnipeg in the first, 21-6 Minnesota in the second, 11-8 Winnipeg in the third. Final shots 38-31 in favor of the Minnesota Wild. Power plays 1 for 3 for Winnipeg, 0 for 4 for Minnesota. The hits were only 11-6 for Winnipeg. Not a very physical game. Hellebuck saves 10 out of 14. Comrie saves 21 out of 24. Talbot saves 30 out of 31 and continues what's been a really good start to the season for him. And so if you're a fan of the Wild, you got to feel pretty good. And again, I'm overdue for a panic index anyways. Winnipeg may very well be on the panicky side of the panic index the next time I roll that out, which isn't very long from now. I'm supposed to do them every 2 weeks, and I'm actually past 2 weeks since I did the last one. So this week's just been different. All right, next up, Ottawa. Ottawa's, their season basically already looks done. And this is kind of going to be a mess now because Forsberg's against Stolars. Matt Murray, the highlight, of course, well, the big news coming into this game was that Murray is a healthy scratch and that Gustafson's the backup for Forsberg. So the first chance goes to the Sens. They did press at 2 minutes. We then had Watson fight Carrick, so there's some emotion in this. The Sens are, looking decent on the road to begin with. Shots are 5-3, though, for the Ducks at 5 minutes. So the Ducks start generating opportunities. Stolar saves on Thompson and then on Connor Brown. Again, Lassie Thompson, when you're looking for positives right now for Ottawa, I think Lassie Thompson's been decent. Good first half as well for Forsberg. The Sens get a power play. Tkachuk was denied on a one-timer during that. There's a post for Norris. It's killed off, and there were 3 shots. So overall, it's not too bad. It's pretty even. The Ducks get their turn on the power play. Getzlaf's denied, and Gambrell had a shorthanded opportunity. But before the period's out, at 16:43, Lundestrom scores from Raquel, makes it 1-0. So we go to the second period, with that being the score, and another good start for the Senators. They got off to a decent beginning of the period. Gambrell had a rush chance that was saved. The Sens get a power play. That's killed off. Tierney had a post right after it ended. Sens go back to the power play. We then had a fight between Tkachuk and Manson. Which, of course, led to the conversation of, did their dads ever fight? Probably. Sens were overpassing on the power play, so that helped to kill it off. And then Grant scores at 10:28 on a turnover by Ennis, which was kind of off of Ennis. It went off Mete as well. Either way, it was one of those ones that kind of bounces in, and Grant will take it. It's his first goal of the year. It's done. unless that's changed. Again, some of these may have gotten changed, but all I've been doing is watching hockey for 12 hours. So, yeah. Formenton then couldn't bury one. The shots are 11-1 for the Sens with 7 minutes left. Think about that. The shots are 11-1 in favor of Ottawa in this period, and the only goal belongs to Anaheim. That's got to be frustrating. 2:25 left. The Ducks get a power play, and they score on it because, unlike last year, this power play doesn't suck. It's Terry from Zegras at 19-17. So Troy Terry getting ready to get another point-scoring streak going. Third period, the Ducks get a power play. It's unsuccessful. It ends up with 3 shots. The Ducks did press after at 9:05 before the halfway mark of the period. Raquel scores from Zegras and Milano. So Zegras with a couple of assists. Raquel with a goal and an assist. Sens then get a power play after that. It's a no. Near miss and a post for Terry. So Terry was close to getting himself another one in the third. And the Sens were not shut out at all last season. This is the 3rd time in 6 games that they've been shut out. That is remarkable, and it tells you just how overmatched these guys are and how easy it is to keep them off the board for NHL teams right now. The shots were 14-12 for Anaheim in the first, a team that goes to 11-7-3, as opposed to the 4-13-1 record for Ottawa. Second period, Ottawa outshoots them 14-7. Anaheim outshot them 12-8 in the third. Final shots 34-33 for Ottawa. Power plays 0-4 for Ottawa, 1-3 for Anaheim. The hits 29-21 in favor of the Ottawa Senators. Forsberg saves 29 out of 33, and Stolarz saves all 34 in a shutout. And so kudos to Anthony Stolarz for a shutout, and Gibson got the night off and got to enjoy watching that. So, that being said, I need to change boards. Okay, next up, Florida in against the Washington Capitals. And for tonight, this was kind of a battle between two of the powers of the East. And for the Caps, of course, they're trying to claw their way into the consideration for first in the division. And maybe being seen as the best team in the division. Not bad tonight. So it's Bobrovsky versus Samsonov. Uyghur with a turnover. Bobrovsky makes the save there. If you were watching this game and if you changed out and came back every 5 minutes, you would be rightfully confused about who was in net. We'll talk about it. Caps, press at 3 minutes. Hits are being thrown by Garnet Hathaway. Some of those hits not impressing the Florida Panthers, but that's his job. Strong first half for the Capitals. Capitals press, and you could see they were seeking out Ovechkin, trying to set him up. Maybe they knew something, right? Best goal scorer maybe in history, right? So the Panthers get a power play, and really Sprong gets a break. Puck goes high. Everything's all killed off. The Caps then get a power play. Ovechkin hits the post. That's killed off. Bobrovsky makes some saves late. The Caps make a push. And then Huberdeau scores at 19:28. So going into the first intermission, it's 1-0 for the road team for Florida. Second period, early power play for the Panthers. That led to a shorthanded goal by the Caps. It's Wilson from Karlsson and Kuznetsov at 1:34. We then get 4-on-4 shortly thereafter, a Caps power play after that. And on their power play, the Caps score. Ovechkin from Wilson and Protas at 2:50. Bobrovsky gets shaken up. Knight is in. Ovechkin then scores again, this time on Knight. First shot. And, it's not like a goalie can warm up. So it's like, all right, kid, you're not warmed up. Here's Ovechkin. That's in the net. Protas and Kuznetsov with the assists on that one at 3:46. And all of a sudden, it is 3-1 for Washington with 3 goals scored in 2 minutes and 12 seconds. That's Washington Capitals hockey right there. Bobrovsky does return. Panthers press, try to answer. And Reinhart scores from Uyghur and Montour at 6:49. The Caps, they get a power play. That was a no. Knight comes back in because likely the concussion spotter wanted to go to the quiet room. So, yeah, Knight comes back in for a bit. Panthers had a 2-on-1. Draws a power play. Better second half for Florida, but they're down 3-2 going to the third. Third period, early turnovers by the Caps, keeping things interesting. Tippett had a blast that was saved. And then Ovechkin scores his third of the game. That's his 28th career hat trick from Wilson and Kuznetsov at 4:02. And then the Caps are looking for another. To the Panthers' credit, they don't go away. Verhaeghe scores from Forsling at 5:36. To the Capitals' credit, neither did they. They pressed for another goal right after. Tippett had a net feed that was defended. We had a long stretch without a whistle. Caps starting to play really solid defense. And again, it's the modern version of the trap. You're just trying to make sure there's no whistles. You're trying to keep it out of your own zone. You're just, you know, if you can rag it a little bit behind your own net in your own zone and dump it out, hey, that's all the better. And you make sure you've got like 4 guys across the blue line when they're coming in so that they don't have an easy time of it when they try. Montour had a rush chance that was saved. With 2:41 left, Bobrovsky gets pulled. Timeout called by Florida. They are unable to come up with a tying goal. Your final score is 4-3 for the Caps. They go to 13-3-5. Florida drops to 14-3-3. And on the road, they do have their struggles. The shots, 12-9 Washington in the first, 11-5 Washington in the second. Florida did outshoot them 8-6 in the third. Final shots, 29-22 for Washington. Power plays, Florida 0-3, Washington 1-3. Hits, 21-13 for Washington. Bobrovsky saves 19 out of 22. Knight saves 6 out of 7. And yeah, so they switch back and forth a couple of times. Samsonov, 19 saves on 22 shots in the victory. And so the Caps, yeah, they come out of this one looking pretty darn good. Still only 3 regulation losses. Now, both teams have 3 regulation losses. All right, moving along. Devils in against Nashville. This was Bernier versus Saros. Good first 5 minutes for the Predators. They get a power play. That becomes a 4-on-4. Yossi would score. He gets a goal from Johansson and Carrier at 7:31. Predators then go right back onto the power play. Bernier robbed Duchesne, and then he robbed Yossi after that as well. Near miss then by Duchesne. The shots are 8-1 for the Predators with 8 minutes left. The Devils would get a power play. That power play generated no shots. The rest of that period was it was slow. So we go to the second period, 1-0 Nashville. Predators are 6-0 coming into tonight if they're leading after one period. Sissons gets the first chance. The Devils were flat, but it's still only 1-0. So I'm looking at this going, man, the Devils just look like they're out of it, but it's still only 1-0. So as long as Bernier can keep it close. Mercer had a shot that trickled through. It cleared. The Predators then get a press, and they score. It's Tomasino from Cousins and Yossi at 3:30. Predators get a power play. It was 0-2 to this point. The Devils did kill it off, rendering it 0-3. VC was offside. Would have had a break if he wasn't, but that's part of the thing about being offside. You're probably ahead of the play. So VC's had a good start, and there was a lot of discussion about how well VC's played, although he doesn't get on the board tonight. Sharon Govich fires one wide. Ekholm was robbed in close. The Predators rush in the closing seconds, and they are prevented from getting another one by Bernier. Third period, good start for the Devils. Not only that, but Sissons gets dinged on a shot block, and the shots at 6.5 minutes are 6-0 in favor of New Jersey. But Granlund at 6:45 scores from Duchesne and Forsberg. So all that pressure by New Jersey, puck goes the other way, it's in the net. It's 3-0. Predators pressure with 8.5 minutes left, but Johnson scores from Mercer at 11:58. You know what? Half the people say Johnson, half say Johnson. Some say, well, in this interview you said Johnson. This interview you said Johnson. It doesn't matter. I don't care. So Johnson gets a goal there. Tolvanen nearly answers. Pressure then by the Predators with 5 minutes left. Sissons had a tip that was saved. Goaltender gets pulled with 1 minute and 40 seconds left. Severson had a chance that was saved. And then Carrier hits the empty net from Johansson at 18:50. But before the game is over, New Jersey does answer. Tatar scores from Johnson at 19:32. And there you go. Your final score is 4-2 for the Nashville Predators. Nashville goes to 11-8-1 with the victory. New Jersey drops to 8-6-4. So they've won 8 out of 18, but they're 2 games above 500. So again, if you're glass half full, glass half empty, you'll view their record differently. Shots in this one were 9-2 in favor of Nashville in the first, 13-7 Nashville in the second, 16-9 New Jersey in the third. Final shots 31-25 in favor of Nashville. Power plays 0-1 for New Jersey, 0-3 for Nashville. Hits were 16-9 for the Preds. Bernier saves 27 out of 30. Saros saves 23 out of 25. And Nathan Bastian did make his return to the New Jersey Devils lineup, fresh off the waiver wire. Played 7 minutes and 13 seconds in that return. So, not the kind of return he would have envisioned, not the kind of return the New Jersey Devils would have envisioned, but they have to pick themselves up and get ready for their next game. All right, speaking of next games, we'll move on to ours. Montreal and Buffalo. The least amount of notes on any game that I watched today because, I don't know, this just feels like a pattern with Montreal, doesn't it? This was supposed to be Buffalo's fate this year, right? Buffalo was supposed to be the one that had a handful of wins in their first 20 games, and yeah, they're done. It's over. Now, it's not that Buffalo's record's fantastic, but it's better than Montreal's. I was Montembeault versus Tokarski. Sabres press at a minute and a half. Tokarski passes an early test. And then at 4:08, I should say, Tage Thompson scores from Olofsson and Skinner. So, not bad. Or we could call that the TOS line. There you go, terms of service. Montembeault then with a turnover. He ends up recovering so that doesn't go in. It was a bad turnover in his part. Lehkonen was denied in close, but then at 12:44, Josh Anderson scores to tie it. So at the end of that first period, it is 1-1 for both of these teams, tied going into the second period. And of course, we'll see how the Perils go from there. Fast game, no Habs shots though, 6 minutes into the period. Buffalo didn't have a ton either, but while the game was going quickly, the Habs weren't getting the opportunities on net that they needed. Shots are 3-1 for the Sabres at 7 minutes. Anderson had a chance that was blocked. Tokarski saves as the Habs press, and then it's Cody Eakin restoring the lead for the Buffalo Sabres from Vinny Hinostroza at 9:49. The Habs get a power play. It is a 4-minute power play. This is where you need to score, preferably score twice. However, shorthanded, Okposo scores from Eakin at 15:45. I believe that was on his own rebound too. So Okposo continues what's been a very good start for him. Sabres finished off the kill, and then they pressured as well, now up 3-1. 2:17 left. The Sabres get a power play. That was unsuccessful, but they exit the second period up 3-1 on Montreal. Third period, first minute, the Habs had a 2-on-1. That was denied. And then Tage Thompson gets his second of the game from Skinner and Olofsson at 3:29. So 4-1 there. Evans had a rush that fizzles. The shots are 4 apiece at 7 minutes. Hayden had a net drive that wouldn't go. The Habs seemed to be out of gas by the second half of this period. Dvorak couldn't bury one. And it's 4-1 at the end of it. Buffalo goes to 8-10-2 with the win. The Montreal Canadiens 5-15-2. This is miserable. This is an absolutely miserable start to the season for Montreal. These are not Montreal-like numbers. Even in the period after Patrick Roy was gone and you had all that turmoil and all of that, it was better than this. This is a bad run. Your shots, 15-12 Montreal in the first, 14-2 Buffalo in the second, 13-9 Buffalo in the third. Final shots, 39-26 for the Sabres. Power plays, Montreal goes 0-2. Buffalo goes 0-1. It is telling that Montreal had more shots in the first than they had in the second and third put together. Hits were 18-7 for Montreal. Montembeault saves 35 out of 39. Tokarski saves 25 out of 26. Bounces back from a couple of rough outings that he's had lately. So, yeah, for Montreal, they didn't bounce back from rough outings at all. All right, next up. Seattle in against Tampa for the first time. Of course, Yanni Gourde, his first time being home, playing against Tampa. And they had a nice ceremony for him and all that. But we get on with the game. It's Grubauer versus Vasilevsky. Early press by Seattle. However, on the first shot for Tampa, it's in the net. And this is a pattern that Seattle's not going to be happy about seeing come back after a couple of really strong wins. It is Belmar scoring from Perry and Hedman at 2:52. Vasilevsky saves a shot from Hayden Fleury. Shots are 4-2 for Seattle at 6 minutes. Bogosian had a rush chance that was saved. The Bolts press, Grubauer making saves, but as the period went along, you could see Tampa was getting stronger. Second period, first minute, 31 seconds in. It's Colton from Ruda and Tkachuk. That kid line for Tampa is pretty darn good. McCann's response was saved. Tkachuk was down, and he manages to get up and skate off after, but he got knocked down on a play after that. Alexiak had blasted him, and his head hit the post when he went down. So I didn't see him end up going to the quiet room, but he probably should have. Seattle presses at 5 minutes. The Bolts get a power play. Cirelli fires one wide. Seattle then gets a power play as well. That was a no. And again, it's another strong game for Tkachuk. So he stays in there, and he had a very strong defensive game, and there's some offensive upside there too. So third period with Tampa up 2-0. The shots are 1 apiece at 4 minutes. Tampa into that shell that they get into in a third period when they have a lead. It's very hard to break through there. No easy pucks for Seattle. They were not giving them a lot to work with. Power play for Seattle takes place. We then end up with 4-on-4 for a minute and 8 seconds. Tkachuk had actually drawn the penalty that evened it up. Cirelli with a tip shot saved. Everything's killed off. The Bolts blocking and again keeping Seattle the outside. Very few shots and opportunities for Seattle in the third. And then Stamkos adds the insurance marker from Palat at 11:32, and after that, the Bolts kept pressuring. So Seattle really wasn't in this one tonight. They lose 3-0. They drop to 6-13-1, so they're 20 games into their season, and they have 6 wins. For Tampa, 12-4-3 is their overall record now. The shots, 13-7 Tampa in the first, 7-5 Seattle in the second, and then 8-3 Tampa in the third. Final shots, 26-17 for Tampa. Both teams go 0 for 2 on the power play. Hits were 38-31 for Seattle, so it's a physical game. Grubauer saves 23 out of 26. Vasilevsky saves all 17. Probably one of the easier shutouts that Vasilevsky's had in his career. He also reaches 200 wins in his career. So he just keeps racking up wins. If there's anybody who can get into that 500 win club, which is being threatened right now by Fleury, I would say Vasilevsky's the most likely to get there. But again, you know, that's not an easy thing to do, and he's still 300 wins away from it. So, all right, let's go ahead and go to the final board. Okay, and last board of the night, and Vancouver and Columbus. I'm not sure what to expect after this one. If there is a moral victory to be had in Vancouver's struggles, yeah, tonight's it. Tonight's a game where Travis Green could sit behind a microphone and say, you know what, we did everything right. 9 times out of 10, we're going to win that game. And that's fine. The problem is, it's the same thing that was said after the Anaheim game. And it's been said a lot this year. So I'm not sure what's going to happen. It's Demko versus Merzlikins. Early press for the Canucks. Then Columbus scored. And it was Chinakhov. And I thought, all right, Chinakhov's going to get a goal. He's going to start scoring goals. And then I'm not going to be able to talk about whether or not he's allowed to get them. But it was offside. So it's challenged for offside. As soon as Voracek saw the replay, you could see the look on his face. Like, yeah, it's offside. So the shots are 4-0 for Vancouver at 5.5 minutes because that goal doesn't count. Elvis was sharp as the Canucks press. That's an understatement. Garland couldn't bury one. Things get kind of scrummy. Connor Garland does draw a crowd. He does tend to aggravate players. At one point tonight, Elvis kind of cross-checked him in the legs while he was there in front of the net. Columbus gets a power play. It didn't succeed, and it registered 0 shots. So very good penalty kill there from Vancouver. That's the only power play Columbus had tonight. So Vancouver didn't allow a power play goal. Small victories. Small victories. 1 shot for Columbus in the first 11 minutes of this game. Power play then for the Canucks. And then this happens. Nyquist with a shorthanded goal at 13:54 puts Columbus ahead 1-0. The power play ends. And then there's a turnover breakaway, which is saved. And then Podkolzin scores from Dowling in the final minute, 19:32. So it's 1-1 after 1. But when you look at it, Columbus didn't register that many shots. And this game really shouldn't have been tied. But this is how things work with Vancouver this year. It's just everything falls the other way. Second period early shots by the Canucks. They would press at 3 minutes. They were getting that cycle going. They were getting opportunities. And then Boquist scores from Sillinger and Bayreuther at 6:17. Elvis then is holding the lead. Now they're up 2-1. Bjorkstrand with a chance was saved. But then again, late in the period, it's Tyler Mott with his first goal of the season from Hughes and Chason at 18:42. So that ties it up at 2 after 2. Third period, Bean had a point shot that went wide. Shot attempts were more than 2-1 in favor of Vancouver at this point in the game. I think they stayed there. Long shot almost fools Demko. Then OEL can't bury one. And then it's Roslovic. He scores from Voracek and Gavrikov at 6:06. So he's heating up. Chinakhov then had a shot that was gloved and held onto. A press by Columbus at the half. Robinson ends up hitting the side of the net. Besser fires one high and wide on a rush chance. Columbus presses. Things get scrummy at the Columbus net. Columbus trying to kill the clock. They did a good job. 2:10 left. Goaltender gets pulled. And then Domi would score into the empty net from Gavrikov at 18:25. And a tough angle on that net for Domi too. So Columbus wins this one 4-2. They go to 12-6 on the season. Vancouver drops to 6, 13-2. It does get worse. Your shots, 13-4 Vancouver in the first, 16-6 Vancouver in the second, 12-11 Vancouver in the third. Final shots, 41-21 for Vancouver. Power plays, Vancouver 0 for 2, allowing the shorthanded goal as well. And Columbus 0 for 1. The hits, 18-16 for Columbus. Demko saves 17 out of 20. And Merzlikins saves 39 out of 41. Yeah, that's a pretty good game. That's passable goaltending from Merzlikins again, who has a very good record on the season and is doing his best to drag Columbus to a playoff spot. And he may very well do that. All right, next up, Pittsburgh and the Islanders. The Islanders are, they really are overmatched, aren't they? And I'm feeling pretty bad for Islander fans. They were so psyched to get into that new building, and it's just there hasn't been a good game in that building yet. Not if you're an Islanders fan. So it's Jari versus Sorokin, and the shots were 5-1 for the Pens at 2.5 minutes. You could just see right out of the gate that like Pittsburgh was more into it. Now the Islanders fought back as best they can. They just don't have any finish right now. So the Islanders looked overmatched. Sorokin was sharp. That was the Islanders' best hope, was that Sorokin might be able to steal this, right? Palmieri ends up hitting the post. The Islanders did improve in the second half. It is scoreless after one, so again, that has to be somewhat encouraging. If your team's having trouble scoring, at least the other one is as well. Second period, Penguins had a 2-on-1 that misfired. The shots were 3 apiece at 7.5 minutes. They would pick up after that. Kapanen couldn't bury one. Penguins press at 9 minutes. Things get kind of scrummy, and it looked like we might get our first penalties of the game. We didn't. There were glove punches thrown. They didn't call anything. They left it alone. McGinn had a rush chance that was saved. The first power play was for the Islanders, and it was bad. The Islanders' power play is miserable. Kapanen would score before the period was out from Crosby and Gensel at 16:41. So it's 1-0 headed into the third. The Penguins are 8-0-1 coming into tonight when leading after 40 minutes. Power play for the Penguins. The Islanders do not let them set it up. In fact, there was a good shorthanded chance for Casey Cizikas. Sorokin then robbed Crosby and is killed off. Matheson had a shot that was saved. The Islanders get a power play. Aho was denied as the power play ended. Things get scrappy at the Penguins net. The Islanders kind of fired up. Again, just not finding the net enough. Dobson had a point shot that was saved. The Penguins blocking the Islanders, keeping them to the outside, blocking shots. Koivula couldn't bury one. Now it's Koivula, it's Koivula. It's all fine. It's all good. Goalie pull with 2 minutes left. It's unsuccessful. So Pittsburgh wins this one 1-0. They go to 10-6-4 with another victory. They're on a roll. For the Islanders, they're 5-10-2. This is really a miserable record they've put together. Shots are 12-6 Pittsburgh in the first, 11-8 Pittsburgh in the second, 11-7 Islanders in the third. Final shots 30-25 for Pittsburgh. Power plays 0-1 for Pittsburgh, 0-2 for the Islanders. Hits 29-20 for the Islanders. Jari saves all 25 for his a lot of shutouts this year. Sorokin 29 saves on 30 shots. Again, Sorokin was very good. If this had been Varlamov, the score probably would have been about 4-0. Varlamov has not been as good as Sorokin this year. But yeah, so Pittsburgh comes in, they do what they have to. They get 2 points, and for the Islanders, they're left still asking, when are we going to get guys back? When is this going to start to turn around? How bad can this get? So in a division as tough as the Metro, every loss just makes it that much more difficult for the New York Islanders. All right, moving along. Dallas. So the weird thing has happened with Dallas on this homestand. I'd love to say that my video caused this. I did a video on the problems with Dallas Stars and that they watched it. They went out and they got better. That's not a thing. I've done videos on teams that are struggling as well as teams that are really good. And you're going to have ones that turn around, as Dallas appears to be doing. We'll see how much this works on the road and how well they do beyond this. It's Kemper versus Ottinger. I'm going to say again, I don't think Darcy Kemper has given the Avalanche the kind of goaltending to this point in his time in Colorado that was expected. Pavelski scores at 1:12 for Robertson and Klingberg. So they mentioned it's the 399th goal, and I'm like, I should write that up there. But I didn't. Why? Because Pavelski scores again 19 seconds later from Roope Hintz. That's goal number 400 for Joe Pavelski. He's, I think they said, the 11th American player, like American born, to score 400 goals. So that's pretty cool. And 2 shots for the Canucks, or 2 shots for the Canucks. 2 shots for the Stars and 2 goals to this point. So there you go. Hintz couldn't bury one. The Avs defense looked terrible early on in this, so it's not just Kemper. The defense didn't look very good either. Shots are 7-2 for the Stars with 9 minutes left. The Avs get a power play. They then got another. I think they had 1 shot between the 2 power plays. Jost was denied after it ended. So it's 2-0 Dallas after 1. Second period, Pavelski nearly gets the hat trick early. Too many Avs on the ice. That leads to a Stars power play. Sagan had a shot that was saved. It's killed off. Kiefer Sherwood with a rush chance after. That was saved. Pressed by the Stars at 8 minutes. They end up getting themselves a power play. Ben fires one high. The Avs killed it off. Stars go back to the power play for goalie interference. This is where Holtby has to come in. Ottinger ends up being sent to the quiet room after the hit that he took. There was head impact there, so they took him off the ice as a precaution. During that power play, Gurianov scores to make it 3-0 from Heiskanen and Suter at 14:26. And Holtby made a really nice save on a chance from Makar. And then we go to the third period. Ottinger back in the net at this point. Early chances for the Avs. Newhook, a lot of energy out there. A lot of good things going on with Newhook. And I think he's going to score a decent amount of points with Colorado this year. Makar fires one high. Ottinger denies Landeskog. Every time Ottinger makes a save now, because I'm rallying for Ottinger, I got to admit, I kind of cheer. I'm kind of excited to see saves from Ottinger. Avs were controlling it. The Stars are pinned down. The refs, it looked like, had put their whistles away. And there were penalties for both squads that weren't being called. There was a Kiviranta interference, straight up. If you've got Daryl Ray of the Dallas Stars announce team saying, yeah, that's interference. I don't know why they didn't call that. And that was on Kiviranta, then hey. But then they called a trip on Hintz that was a body check. So, all right. I was like, okay, well, I guess two wrongs make a right. So there you go. Avs pressed after because they weren't able to score on that power play. It was killed off. There's 6 minutes and 30 seconds left at this point. So they pull the goaltender with more than 5 minutes left. This is Jared Bednar. He does this kind of thing. Ottinger's positioning was excellent. There was not much for the Avs to shoot for. 3:30 left, the Avs call a timeout. And not long after that, with 3:21 left, Makar scores from Landeskog and Taves at 16:39 to break the shutout. Now, there was a big deal made of the fact that the shutout got broken. But because both goaltenders were in the net during this game, it's a shared shutout. So neither goaltender would have a shutout on their record if this had been kept at a goose egg. So it was a screenshot and no chance for Ottinger on that. Goalie gets pulled again. There was an icing by Dallas with 1:51 left, but Colorado couldn't tie it. They had a lot of opportunities, though, but Ottinger was fantastic. Dallas wins this one 3-1. They go to 9-7-2. This is, I think, their third straight win? Third or fourth. Anyways, the Colorado Avalanche with the loss, they dropped to 10-6-1. I think they're all right. They're 8-2-1 in their last 11. The shots were 12-4 Dallas in the first, 13-9 Colorado in the second, and then 20-1 in favor of Colorado in the third. 20-1 final shots. Those are odds, not a shot total. 37-22 are the shots at the end for Colorado. Both teams had 3 power plays. Colorado didn't score on theirs. Dallas got the 1 goal on 3 opportunities there. Hits were 15-14 for Dallas. Kemper saves 19 out of 22. Ottinger saves 32 out of 33. And Holtby saved all 4 shots he faced. So, yeah, the healthy scratch goaltender was, in fact, Anton Khudobin. So it looks like that if they decide to demote a goaltender to the AHL, it may very well end up being Khudobin that gets put on waivers. And I would say that right now Khudobin would probably clear waivers. Based on his numbers and his age, I think he would probably clear. It would not be the first time in his career he cleared waivers. I believe when he was an Anaheim Ducks goaltender, he cleared waivers and ended up in the AHL. But we'll see what happens. All right, last game, end of the night and all that. And this game was after everything else was over. And I just had this one column, and I promised myself I'm not going to take way more notes on this game. And it was Wall versus Reimer. Reimer has played Toronto 4 times since leaving the Maple Leafs. The 4 most recent times, he hasn't lasted a total of an hour worth of game time. I think it's 56 minutes and 37 seconds. Bizarre, right? He doesn't last through this game either. Nylander scores from Tavares and Riley on the first shot at 31 seconds. Welcome to playing against the Maple Leafs once again, James Reimer. And it was a breakaway goal by Nylander. It was a great one. Early scrum going on, too. We end up with a 4-on-4. Barabanov misses one wide. He, of course, playing against Toronto for the first time since he left there. Bonino scores his second in just as many games. So Bonino got off the schneid with the goal in the last game, and now he gets his second. From Gregor and Erik Karlsson at 4:44. But Toronto, this month has been different. Simmons answers immediately from Kampf and Ritchie at 5:16. And it just felt like last shot wins. Like, this is 3 goals in 5 minutes. So I'm like, okay, this game's going to be ridiculous. It's going to be all goals. Nope. Sharks get a power play. It does not score. The shots were 7-3 for the Leafs at the half. They were in pretty decent control. Wall saves a Bird's chance. Wall's fantastic. I don't know what's happened, but Wall's a really solid goaltender right now for Toronto. Hall had a net drive that was saved. There's a delay of game call. The Sharks get a power play. The Sharks, though, at the end of that, they're 0 for 2 and they have no shots. None. So that was a problem. Last minute, there's a Gregor break, and he fires it wide. So it's 2-1 for Toronto after 1 second period. Reimer saves a bunting chance, and then Matthews gets his 9th of the season from Liljegren and Sandin at 4:56. So yeah, Rasmus Sandin stays hot, and his 4th point in 2 games. And that was after a lot of pressure. It was a great shift by the Leafs there. Sharks then go to the power play. There was a shorthanded break for Kerfoot. Reimer makes the save on that. The Leafs get a power play, and it is a very dangerous-looking power play, and eventually it scores. Tavares with his 10th of the season from Nylander and Marner at 10:44. See, giving the top 4 guys in Toronto all the money, it works out fine when they do all the scoring. So it's all right. And that was the end of the night for Reimer. Reimer lasts 30 minutes and 44 seconds tonight before he gets pulled, and Adin Hill goes in. And, just spoiler alert, Adin Hill looked really good again. I know Adin Hill isn't consistent, but when he's in the zone, he's really quite good. So Bunting at a break, Hill saves there, and they're old teammates. Bunting and Hill both played for Arizona last year. Apparently they talked before the game at center ice there when they're doing all the practicing. Nylander with a break. There was another save there by Hill. We go to the 3rd period. Burns hits a post in the 1st minute. If that goes in, you change the whole complexion of the game, but it doesn't. Meyer with a drive that deflects out. Tavares couldn't bury one. Hill, again, very good. Power play for the Leafs with 8:34 left. That was unsuccessful. Couture was absolutely robbed by Wall. I don't know what happened there, but yeah, I don't know how that didn't go in. I was like, oh, I went over the net. I don't know what happened there. Hill then denied Engvall at the other end. So both goaltenders very solid in that 3rd period to maintain the score as 4-1. For the Leafs, they're now 11-2 in November. They're 15-6-1 overall. And for San Jose, they dropped to 10-9-1. They committed today with a record of 7-2 against teams based in Canada. Now it's 7-3. Shots are 10-8 Toronto in the 1st, 11 apiece in the 2nd, 16-12 San Jose in the 3rd. Final shots 35-33 for San Jose. Power plays 1 for 2 for Toronto, 0 for 3 for San Jose. Hits 24-17 in favor of the Sharks. Wall saves 34-35, great game. Reimer saves 13 out of 17, replaced by Adin Hill, who saved all 16 shots he faced. So there you go. Another long day of hockey. I got her done. I watched it all. I did. I stayed here. I was a good hockey guy all day. And now tomorrow, hockey doesn't start until 3 in the afternoon. So I don't have to do the preview tonight or anything. I can do that first thing tomorrow morning. And it's a much quieter weekend than normal. There's 9 games tomorrow and 7 games on Sunday. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.